Alright, so I'm going to show you guys why when you're loading your Remington 870, why you need to load it with force. So basically, if you're pretty good with guns, you're going to be able to tell that this is not an 870, but it's an 870 clone, but it functions exactly the way an 870 does, so I'm going to use this for the video. If you're wondering, this is actually an H&R partner pump, 20 gauge. But again, 12, 20 gauge, it's all going to function the same way. The only thing that's different, obviously, is the size. But alright. So you need to load this thing with force. Let me show you guys how to load this if you don't know, so we're all caught up here. Take the shell, metal side, in this case it's brass, toward the back. You hold it by that. This ejection door, loading door, loading port door, whatever you call this thing. You got to push that down, load the shell into the bottom tube, which is your magazine tube, and they all line up in there. So this is how you do it. And with your thumb, you push it into the back of the tube's hole. Alright, so that's basically it. It's not hard, right? So now the problem is when you push it in, if you don't actually almost stick your tip of your thumb into that hole as well, what's going to happen is there's a big spring in here, so it wants to force it out. If you don't push it in far enough so this little lip in here catches the back of the shell, this door is going to naturally pop back into its open position. The shell's going to shoot out and get wedged underneath this door now. So, it might not sound like too big of a deal, but I'm going to tell you a story about my buddy. I wasn't there for this. I just heard about it. It's definitely true. He's not going to lie about it. But what happened was he did that, and what happens is you can't rack the slide back. It's totally locked up. It's basically seized now. The shell's jammed up in a weird spot. You can't get it out because this door is blocking it. So what he did was, with all his might, just ram the thing back. And what happened was something inside hit the primer, which is the little round thing in the middle, and that's what makes the bang, basically sends the projectile flying. And it exploded and came out the ejection port, blasted right by his face. So if he had this thing aimed any more toward his face, the ejection port, it would have blew his head off, basically. So when he told me that, I didn't really understand because I never owned a Remington. I mess with the Mossbergs and they don't have this door here. So I picked this gun up, a few weeks ago, and I go to the shooting range with my mother. Everybody in the house, everybody I know needs to know how to, mess with a gun. If you're going to be around it, you need to know how it works. You need to know how it feels. But whatever. So she was loading the thing, and she didn't put enough force into it, and it ended up popping out and getting wedged in the same thing with, my buddy. So I'm sitting there for a minute, I'm looking at it, and it wouldn't go back. I had enough sense not to, slam it back like that. But what I ended up doing was unscrewing the tip up here on the magazine, and what that does, you can get the spring out, you can take the spring out, and then the tension's gone. So you can flip the gun down this way, shake it, get the shell to seat, in the magazine a little bit, and you can push this door and get it out now. So that's pretty much, when you're loading this gun, you need to make sure you push it in with force. Because if not, you can possibly have an issue. And with him, what ended up happening with him is he had to bring the gun to a gunsmith after that, because he couldn't figure out how to get the thing out or whatever, get the spent shell out after it almost blew his head off. So after all that, he still had to pay money and bring it to a gunsmith. So if you're going to load this thing, which if you own one, you're gonna make sure you do it with force. And if, you know, if that does happen, just make sure you don't rack it back. All you have to do is unscrew the tip up here. This whole thing will come off. You know what? I might as well show you right now. I'm gonna unload this gun. Because, you know, this could be an issue if you, you know, do it like he did. So basically, you're going to unscrew the tip up here. This is on the, we're going to call this, for people that are not sure about guns, the bottom barrel, which is actually your magazine. Unscrew the tip off of there, and then you have this thing in here. It's a piece of plastic. What you need to do is push it in, stick your finger in, and twist it so it comes off of its tracks and allow it to come out of the gun. So there you go. And then here comes the spring along with it. And the spring is what is giving it the tension, what is keeping the shell that you didn't totally seat in the magazine stuck in this position. So now that all your pressure's out, you can, you know, give it one of these, maybe smack it around a little bit, and then you can push this down and get the shell out that way. So, you know, luckily when that happened, we were at the range. That's why you go to the range with your gun. You don't just buy a gun and say, yeah, I know what I'm doing with it. You need to go to the range. You need to practice with that gun. Because if that would have happened, you know, if an intruder comes in and that's how you, I mean, the gun, you know, should already be loaded. But if you did have to load it, you know, you hear someone coming, it's time to load your gun because maybe you have kids or something in the house, and that's what you do, you're pretty much screwed. You better just beat them with the gun like it was a baseball bat, because it's no longer any good to you. Even if you know how to do this, it's going to take too long to take care of that. But yeah, that's it. Just make sure you do it with force. Remington 870.